Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and greetings to everyone. I'm Siti Yusrina Nadihah binti Jamaluddin from the School of Basic Medical Sciences, Faculty of Medicine, University Sultan Zainal Abidin, Terengganu, Malaysia. Thank you for attending my presentation today. As you can see from my first slide, I've chosen a common idiom for my presentation title, which is "When life gives you lemons, make lemonade." I'll explain how this idiom relates to my research work at the end of my presentation later, so please bear with me. The research work that I'm sharing with you today is actually from our recently published paper on exploring preclinical medical students' reflections on their learning experience during the COVID-19 pandemic. Thanks to my co-researcher, Dr. Muhammad Salami Ibrahim, for his guidance and, of course, trust in me to share our findings in this platform. So let's get started. Undeniably, the COVID-19 pandemic has had significant effects on almost every aspect of human life, including the higher education. Closure of higher educational institutions has put an unprecedented challenge to the curriculum delivery. As a result, universities have to rapidly shift or move from the traditional face-to-face learning to online platforms. Having said that, there is a sudden change in the curriculum, in the landscape of curriculum delivery, and this poses a question on how does the new landscape of curriculum delivery affect the medical students' learning experience. We believe that such question of how would be better addressed by a qualitative research study, and we also believe that students' reflections may serve as a significant source of information to provide an in-depth understanding of the quality of education via the online platform during the COVID-19 pandemic. As mentioned earlier, the unprecedented mandatory migration to online platforms due to the COVID-19 pandemic causes a rapid shift to the process of teaching and learning among higher education students, and this includes the undergraduate medical students as well. Although some scholars suggest that online learning may be a remedy for dealing with future global pandemics, the effectiveness of online teaching and learning in undergraduate medical education, and more importantly, how to make it effective, remains to be established. Moreover, a sudden change in curriculum delivery also demands a comprehensive review of students' experience to illuminate gaps in the current educational practices during the COVID-19 pandemic and provide insights into more targeted and effective educational interventions for future pandemics preparedness. So the question that we are trying to answer in our study is, how does online learning due to the COVID-19 pandemic affect the learning experience of the preclinical medical students? And what we are trying to figure out in our study is to explore the perceptions of the preclinical medical students on their learning concerning the impact of online learning due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The research method used for this study was a qualitative descriptive study with thematic analysis. This study was conducted among the second-year undergraduate preclinical medical students from the Faculty of Medicine, University Sultan Zainal Abidin between March 2021 and April 2021. The recruitment of participants was done via purposive sampling, and this study was approved by the UNISA Human Research Ethics Committee. To comply with the social distancing protocols and other restrictions imposed during the COVID-19 pandemic, data were collected using an online Padlet web platform, which included an open-ended question. Tell us about how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected your learning experience. Additional 5 guided questions were also included to encourage the participants to further express their thoughts. What do you find useful and or interesting from this experience? What do you think is or are particularly discouraging? How do you think this experience can be improved? In what ways do facilities such as devices and internet connection affect or influence this experience? And lastly, in what ways does the teacher's conduct, for instance, teaching style, expertise, etc., influence your experience? The students who opted to participate in our study were then given a unique Padlet link in which they could share their reflections voluntarily at their own convenient time, but within the period of data collection. The reflective scripts were then analyzed using thematic analysis. And then the open coding procedures were conducted by the researchers. Prominent patterns were identified independently and then corroborated to ensure analytical triangulation. For the credibility of data analysis, our study adopted the two-stage thematic synthesis of surface-level factual perspective and deep-level interpretation. There were 3 aspects of triangulation employed in our study, namely the data source, evaluators, and theories. 6 participants for this study produced reflective writings. 2 were males and 4 were females. All our study participants were 21 years old and all were used to English as their second language. We identified 4 distinct themes from our study, and these themes are specific to our context, namely adaptability and flexibility, reduced learning acuity, compromised tacit learning, and supports from policy and practice. The prominent theme identified by our study was adaptability and flexibility, in which participants appreciated that they could save time, make greater financial savings, and have easier access to family support with online-based learning. Participant 4 responded to the question on the most encouraging experience from online-based learning by saying, quote, "The most interesting thing is that no need to be dressed up and rushed to go to the online classes every morning. Also, when I got too stressed out about studying an examination, I have my family in front of me to get some support." End quote. The benefits of flexibility were not completely understood until students were able to adapt to their new learning habits. As participant 1 said, quote, "At first, it was a very awkward moment and we found it quite tough. But after being at home and having online classes, I slowly adapt how to be a flexible student at home." End quote. Adapting to the new habits and being flexible have also aided in the development of innovative learning habits. Participant 5 shared the following, quote, "I became more creative a little bit. If before, I just read the lecture notes and do some revision, but during online class, I know that I need to survive in this math school. I do a lot of simplified notes, diagram, and mind map that helps me on revising." End quote. Unfortunately, the transition to a virtual platform had also been associated with reduced learning acuity, indicating compromised aspects of environments that were critical or crucial for effective learning. This theme encapsulated issues such as unreliable and expensive internet connections, poor audio-visual clarity, and distractions from the internet content. Participant 2 mentioned that, quote, "The biggest challenge on online learning was the struggle with focusing on the computer screen for a long period. I was distracted easily by social media and other sites. Network coverage was bad. The audio and video breaks became an inconvenience and distraction to me. I often lost focus and interest when this happened." End quote. Additionally, the blurring of demarcation between home and dedicated educational environments was also associated with reduced learning acuity, as shared by participant. Quote, "I do not own a room, so it is an inconvenience for me to attend to an online class at family room, even though I own a study desk. Sometimes, when relatives came, I also need to stop attending for a while to greet them, and this somehow makes me lose focus." End quote. Unlike reduced learning acuity, which could be remediated with comprehensive planning and resource investment, this theme emphasized irreplaceable aspects or components of learning that were compromised by transitioning to a virtual platform. Our participants articulated loss of tacit learning via various statements that contrast the quality of learning between the traditional face-to-face and online-based learning. For instance, participant 6 responded to the question on the most discouraging experience from online-based learning by mentioning, quote, "Probably the ability to have the face-to-face lecture. Human expresses emotions through their face, and it affects others' psychology. By having the face-to-face lecture, students can see the honesty in teaching that is expressed by their lecturers, so it can affect the students' psychology to feel more encouraged and interested in their study. In online learning, you don't get the same effects as face-to-face learning." End quote. Furthermore, participants implied loss of tacit motivational drive via statements such as the inability to invest similar focus and being sleepy during online classes. Participant 2 reflected as follows, quote, "Being physically present in class put a pressure on me to focus more, which online learning did not have. I tend to take studying lightly when I was at home compared to in college." End quote. Meanwhile, participant 1 summarized the loss of tacit motivational aspect of learning by contrasting the home environment against the prior dedicated learning atmosphere. Quote, "For me as a student who used to stay at the hostel, home is for rest and enjoy my holiday, not for focusing on study too much." End quote. All participants shared one universal message for policy making, namely the need for reliable and affordable internet connection. Participant 5 reflected as follows, quote, "About the internet, I need to change my place always, sometimes in the bedroom, living room, or the kitchen. Tiring, but what can I do?" End quote. Consequently, participants of our study appreciated several initiatives by the teachers to deliver quality education. These include adopting and engaging teaching techniques such as the use of diagrams and video-based lectures, personal video calls for certain students, and quick game sessions, among others. Participant 2 recalled the effect of engaging teaching techniques on the learning experience by mentioning, quote, "Most of my lecturers know how to make their students gain interest in every topic. They used a lot of diagrams and real-life examples that we can relate, and this gives a positive impact on my online learning experience." End quote. To the best of our knowledge, this is the first qualitative study to use students' reflective writings to explore preclinical medical students' perceptions of the influence of online-based learning due to the COVID-19 pandemic at a public university in Malaysia. Our study derived 4 distinct themes which provide a new understanding of how the COVID-19 changed the landscape of the conventional curriculum delivery and affected education specific to our context. This understanding is of paramount importance to guide decision-making for educational policies and practices. Additionally, This study also provides evidence for the roles of policymakers, teachers, students, and elements of learning environments that are crucial for the learning process specific to our context, but may be relevant for other institutions that share similar challenges to our context. In this study, adaptability and flexibility appeared as the prominent theme. Although the same finding has been reported by other quantitative studies on education during the pandemic, our study extends this understanding further by attributing flexibility to the convenience of not having to dress professionally, a repeat of access to recorded materials, and proximity of the family support, food and drink. More importantly, participants of this study only appreciated being flexible after they had adapted to new routines, indicating that the advantage of flexible learning time is not immediate, and adaptation is a crucial aspect before the advantage of flexibility can be appreciated. Under the theme of reduced learning acuity, our participants reported issues and challenges related to online-based learning exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, such as the lack of conducive learning space at home, unreliable internet connection, unsatisfactory quality of displays and audios, all of which require consistent strategies for continuous quality improvement to address reduced learning acuity. Our findings also illuminate the fundamental aspects, the fundamental compromise of tacit knowledge when transitioning to virtual platforms. Participants of this study had described important aspects of face-to-face learning that cannot be replaced by online learning. These include elements of learning that are responsible for personal and professional development, indicating that face-to-face teaching is still fundamental and should not all be replaced by online learning. Additionally, our findings contribute towards better informed decision-making for educational policies and practices. All participants consistently emphasized the key message for policymakers to engineer solutions to provide affordable and reliable internet connection. Lecturers also share bigger roles for effective online-based learning. Understanding the experience from our study participants on varying effective roles of teachers during the rapid and mass adoption of online-based learning due to the COVID-19 pandemic can help navigate the focus of strategies on educators' training for effective online-based learning. Undeniably, COVID-19 has caused a mass adoption and adaptation among teachers and learners for online-based learning. As a result, this may have magnified the return of educational investment for technology-enhanced formative assessment, which can facilitate mastery of learning. Having said that, there is a need to invest more resources for strategies in technology-enhanced formative assessment, as well as providing appropriate training to educators on the effective formative assessment modules with quality feedback. As with any qualitative study, the findings of this study are context-specific and are not immediately generalizable to the population of medical students or students of higher education. However, given that the restrictions of the COVID-19 on teaching context and the rapid transition towards online-based learning are universal, we believe the findings of our study may remain useful to derive insights and perspectives that bring relevance to a wider context of educational practice. So, to wrap up, our study concludes that Online-based learning necessitated by the COVID-19 pandemic offers a major advantage of the flexibility to our study participants. However, despite being able to adapt gradually to the new learning habits, at the same time, a large majority of our study participants reflected on some challenges to the acquisition of knowledge via online platforms, which have resulted in a decline in their learning acuity and the missing elements of tacit learning. All participants reflectively conveyed a key message to inform policy and practice to provide them with relevant support for improved learning experience and continuous medical education amid the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. Before I finish off, I would like to thank Dr. Yusrina binti Muhammad Yusuf for her expertise and assistance during the initial phase of the data analysis, and also the students who participated in this study. So coming back to this idiom, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. I believe that this idiom fits quite aptly for our research findings because it is an expression that encourages people to stay optimistic and to keep going in the face of adversity. Lemons suggest sourness or difficulty in life. In this case, it's the COVID-19 pandemic itself. And making lemonade is turning them into something sweet, positive, and desirable. In this case, how our study participants managed to adapt to the new norm of learning experience and the challenges that they faced during their learning process in times of crisis. I hope that by now I have convinced you how this idiom relates to our research work. With that, I thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Yusrina, for a very interesting, enlightening presentation. I would say that I learned a lot from you and from your research as well, very well. All right, time for now Q&A. I believe those who have anything that you like to ask the authors, the author and the co-authors as well here, Dr. Salami also here. So you can ask them directly, or maybe you can propose something to them that you think. Go ahead. Who is talking? Anyone talking just now? All right, so maybe come on, go ahead.
Maybe. So I just put a thumbs up, and so really it was very interesting from the beginning, from the first moment, from the title.
Alhamdulillah, thank you for the compliments. I was nervous actually. I was nervous, honestly.
That was an excellent presentation,
This is not my forte.
and brilliantly
Thank you.
prepared slides and very well presented in very clear manner. And there were each and every single word was audible and understandable. MashaAllah. So, MashaAllah, Tabarakallah. Congratulations, Dr. Siti Yusrina. The topic was like, so catching, and, it was really very much relevant from the first slide till the end. And I congratulate you and your team with Dr. Salami, and these are our colleagues. So actually, what I have seen here, mashallah, alhamdulillah, you people have done a great job. This is the local context, especially with adding up the flavor of reflexive writing, because we have to know from them. Actually, they are our first target and they are the stakeholders, and you will have driven many important themes with advantages, with disadvantages of adaptability, flexibility, and same time reduced learning equity was mentioned. I do not have any query, any question, because it's so clear to me from the start to end. I just want to know, and I wish, and I will, and I hope, and I pray that you this time that you have gathered information, what is relevant in terms of post-corona scenario, and this will not stop here, even the corona is there or not, but this online learning would go long way, I hope, and I anticipate. So I think that you must have thought to just, progress your work further with to target the positive findings that you people have got, so that you can make them sustainable. Yes, perhaps this is the authority of the higher authority of policymakers. But
Anjay,
from you as a researcher, I'm sure that you people must have thought to further your work, to again make some excellent work, qualitative work like this, to make things sustainable, which were find positive, and also to address the areas that required some improvement from a student side, their complaints, their learning equity issues, and these things. I hope you must have thought for it, and I wish we can see some next
Continuation,
episode of this work very soon, of continuation. I hope,
inshallah.
inshallah. And
Yes.
thank you so much once again for the excellent work.
Thank you, Dr. Kamran. So you're saying that you are also convinced with the appropriateness of the chosen idiom?
Exactly. I
Because
said from the start till
yeah.
end.
All right.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Yes.
Like this.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
thank you,
much.
thank you,
Alright,
brother. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kamran, for very positive notes while
Yes.
suggesting something for further expansions. Yes.
Yes.
Any other colleagues would like to ask any question to the presenters? Or maybe want to propose?
If I can address that question, I'll try, because I'm a novice here.
Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
And good afternoon.
Alhamdulillah, barakatuh.
First of all, I have to thank you, Dr. Siti Yusrina, for this very impressive presentation, because I learned from you a lot how to present qualitative data. Because presenting qualitative data in understandable manner is not easy. And you did it very well. You did it very well, mashallah. The transition of quotes as well as the tone of voice make the presentation brilliant. So I have to acknowledge that, and I have to thank you, and also to the team that came up with this very nice paper. I have just
I agree with you. Even I don't think I can do like hers. She's so good.
That's my co-author.
oh, Dr. Salami, okay, you know,
This is Dr. Salami, after a long time.
as a guru in this, I think, in this area.
Yes, he's my sifu.
Thank you for your comment. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you. So just one question or recommendation, just this paper or the finding this paper, how it can help for the new normal life. You know that now, I think majority of the university address the importance of introducing online learning in some sessions. And just my question, how we can learn from this paper to promote or to benefit from the online learning, and how we can transform lemon to lemonade.
All right.
Here's my
Thank
question.
you. All right. That's a very interesting question. And if you can see from our derived themes, we found if you like, there are pros and cons with the online-based learning as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. So we believe that online learning is not like an overarching platform for continuing medical education, but we are more towards having a hybrid, if you like, or blended mode of learning, so that we can have some components of the medical educations which are applicable and appropriate for online-based learning. We can pretty much enhance and improve more on that, or increase the contents by of course, we need to provide appropriate trainings to the educators so that they can actually prepare appropriate online contents that are specifically designed for medical education. But for some aspects, especially with regards to the tacit components of learning, elements of learning that are important for personal and professional development, that cannot be replaced entirely by online-based learning. So that's why, if you ask me, I'm actually promoting blended or if you like, hybrid mode of future medical education based on our study findings. So yeah, I hope that answers the question, Dr. Majid.
Yeah, really.
Or maybe Dr. Salami, my Sipu would like to add on, if that is allowed.
Yes, of course. Even the co-authors age up, that's no problem.
I don't think I deserve to be called Sifu because she's so much better than I am in terms of findings
You are
of
being
this
so
study.
humble, Dr. Salami.
Yes,
Probably the most important lesson have been shared by Dr. Yusrina. I don't think I can speak better in terms of the main lesson from this study. Probably there's only one more that I can just add on from Dr. Yusrina is about the adaptation component of flexibility. So there's a reason why we combine those together and the team number one.
Yes.
Even though people keep saying flexibility, people tend to overlook the adaptability. So I think in terms of what it tells us for the future strategy is if we want to harness the best advantages of online learning, we need to allow time for students to adapt
Yes.
first. So
Exactly.
we don't want to keep changing how online learning should be done in one way, and then before students have the chance to adapt, then we
Yes.
change another way of doing it. So it's actually going to cause a lot of troubles. So I think our study shows that we consistent to adopt one strategy. It may not be perfect. It most likely will not be perfect, but we need to keep improving based on what we're
Yes.
doing. Keep consistent. Do not change the strategy. We just keep continuously improving it. So I think that will be the main lesson from our study because we don't want the burden fall on our students to keep changing, and then they will need to learn all new things, routines all over again. So that will be one of another lesson from this study that I want to just to has a little bit more extra flavor from the main things that is delivered by Dr. Yusrina.
Thank you for that.